The Iran war permanently altered the global economy. That's the headline from the New York Times, and it's a story that touches every corner of the planet. A framework deal between the United States and Iran may be setting the stage for an end to the violence, but economists and analysts are increasingly clear on one thing: the global economy is not going back to where it was before the US and Israel began bombing Iran on February 28. The most immediate shock has been energy. The near shutdown of oil and gas deliveries from the Middle East sent prices surging and exposed just how vulnerable countries across Asia, Europe, and beyond are when it comes to imported energy. In the short term, that's pushed some nations, South Korea and Japan among them, toward dirtier fuels like coal. But over the longer haul, analysts say this crisis is likely to accelerate the shift to renewables and nuclear power. Solar and wind are now cheaper and faster to build than they were even a few years ago. In fact, in April, wind and solar generated more electricity globally than gas, for the very first time. The war has also reshuffled relationships between producers. The United Arab Emirates has left OPEC+, the oil cartel, after tensions with Saudi Arabia deepened during the conflict. A weakened OPEC could mean more volatility in oil markets for years to come. Meanwhile, the Saudis are moving closer to Russia. Vladimir Putin hosted Saudi Arabia as the guest of honor at an economic forum in St. Petersburg just this month. And across the Atlantic, Brazil, Venezuela, Colombia, Argentina, and Guyana are all ramping up oil production to fill the gap left by Middle Eastern suppliers. Then there's China. Analysts at Wood Mackenzie, a global energy consulting firm, call China an out-and-out winner. It leads the world in producing wind turbines, solar panels, batteries, high-voltage cables, essentially the entire infrastructure of a renewable energy future. As other countries race to secure reliable energy supplies, China's role as a supplier of that technology is growing, and so is its strategic influence. The Trump administration's decision to pull back from renewable energy, even paying companies to cancel wind farms, means the United States is essentially stepping aside in this competition and handing the industrial and technological advantage to its biggest rival. Beyond energy, the war has shaken confidence in the stability of the Persian Gulf itself. Iran attacked Kuwait, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates, among others. Qatar's natural gas fields suffered damage affecting 17% of its liquefied natural gas export capacity. In Saudi Arabia, a petrochemical complex was bombed. The Emirates, which has worked hard to brand itself as a global financial hub and tourist destination, saw attacks on hotels, data centers, and a nuclear facility, the kind of images that scare off investors and visitors. And then there's the Strait of Hormuz, the narrow waterway that is the only sea route for moving oil, natural gas, and cargo out of the Persian Gulf. Iran has pushed to impose fees on ships passing through, and even if that doesn't become official policy, it has demonstrated it can disrupt traffic at will. Maurice Obstfeld, former chief economist at the International Monetary Fund, put it bluntly: the strait, he said, is never going to go back to the certainty of free passage that the world had come to expect. That uncertainty raises costs and risks for global trade indefinitely. The numbers are already bad. The World Bank, which had been cautiously optimistic about the global economy at the start of this year, has now revised its forecast downward. It expects global growth to fall to 2.5% this year, down from 2.9% in 2025. Inflation is climbing. In the United States, it hit an annual rate of 4.2% in May, the third consecutive monthly increase. The European Central Bank raised rates to 2.25% last week. Higher interest rates, piled on top of already enormous public debts in countries rich and poor, are going to squeeze government budgets at exactly the moment those governments need to spend more on energy assistance for struggling households and on defense. Asian economies have already been hit hardest, flooding the Asian Development Bank with requests for emergency loans. As the World Bank's chief economist Indermit Gill said, the world economy is going to end up being more jittery, and that is not good for long-term planning, investment, or growth. The Iran war may be winding down, but the economic aftershocks are only beginning.